Hi, thanks for joining us. My name is Mark Forster. I'm from Comscare, part of the Ingram Micro Group. So we've got Wayne Sutcliffe with us, who went to VMworld as part of VMware. We've got Amar Jandu, who went to Microsoft Ignite. And we've got Dan Maynard, who was at the Cisco Partner Summit over in Vegas. The developer and the actual, Cisco's obviously, they spoke a lot around DevNet and the role of the developer, and just like you say now, on how we engage with technology, how we engage with these vendors and their products. And it's really interesting to hear that it sounds like there was a strong sort of development community sort of message coming from all of the vendor summits, for all the vendor events.
Definitely. As you said, obviously you were there at Partner Summit, and that was a massively strong point that Cisco raised around their DevNet community. I think there's some of the offers that they have there, and they're going to develop a certification around that DevNet piece, which is a whole new world for Cisco in a lot of ways. Around ultimately applications is not historically been their area of expertise, and they recognise it's still not their area of expertise, but ultimately putting more tangibility to that in terms of what the development of apps ultimately will mean for them in terms of where those apps need to sit in terms of their technology. Absolutely, and I think it's interesting to see that back in what we talked about earlier in terms of these global events or regional events. There's absolutely best practice that can be driven out of either the events or the follow-up, as Wayne said earlier. Meeting other people from the Ingram community, seeing what some of those are doing either at the event or in terms of the follow-up around whether it be Microsoft Teams or obviously maybe WebEx Teams. From a Cisco perspective, I have to get that in there. I think a lot of it is interesting to see how people are more willing to collaborate now and be more willing to share their best practice or the apps they may have developed. It seems to, again, that consumerization, that digitization, it's a more open place that we live in today in terms of the technology that's available to us. And people seem to be more willing to share, because a lot of it driven, I think, social media wise, because people are willing to share a lot of information on LinkedIn, Twitter, etc., whatever it may be, and therefore they're more used to these forums where you share information, you share ideas, you share your experiences, and that leads more and more into the business world.
And I think, and that opens up then into the collaboration. It's like both of you guys, well, all of us that are talking around, all of the vendors are saying, it's almost like their keynote elements is on how well they're collaborating with the different vendors now. We saw it at Cisco talking around Microsoft. I know it was an element from Microsoft. I mean, what were the sort of feeling around the collaboration and where they're looking to go and who they're looking to work with? So starting with VMware.
Yeah, so VMware, very big on, again, the cloud environment and who they're working with in the partnerships. I've already mentioned the big five that they've been working with. But they're also talking very much around individual type workloads and individual type technologies and who they're working with. So again, Microsoft they mentioned working very well with around VMware's technology of Workspace ONE and also Microsoft's Office 365 in bringing the technologies together so that Office 365 can be deployed from within Workspace ONE, better managed across the environments. Also about bringing Microsoft's virtual desktop into VMware as well. So again, it's just constant collaboration now between vendors, and that's only going to get better for the customer experience.
Yeah.
From my perspective.
Yeah, I got that same feeling as well. Just the sheer amount of vendors that they partnered with. It's almost like Microsoft developed this kind of product or this kind of platform, and then off the back of that, they partnered with just about every vendor you could think of to improve those products and bring help customers solve problems that they have through these specialist products. VMware was a really big one. Again, what you just mentioned about Windows Virtual Desktop, that was a big showrunner as well. On the vendor floor within the conference. But Microsoft, in summary, Microsoft has shown a lot of love to a lot of vendors, to be able to develop off the back of their platform, making just about any vendor or third party being able to have the ability to produce something in the Azure marketplace or the Microsoft ecosystem to improve their services essentially. But also the other thing, the takeaway I got was not just partnering with vendors, but also with the wider community as well.
Mhm.
So Microsoft listens to the actual end user community, the developers, the users of their products, and if somebody comes up with something that's a better way of doing it, Microsoft will actually incorporate that as within their product. So, for example, there's been a lot of interest in one of the products that Microsoft have released called Azure Sentinel,
Mhm.
and that's like a security application in essence, and a lot of the complex features have been developed by just developers externally, and
Mhm.
they've uploaded their queries and their code essentially on GitHub, and that's Microsoft endorses that, really endorses that. So the message Microsoft gives across is that we'll work with everybody to a better, brighter future, in essence.
Back to the power of the developer, I suppose, isn't it?
Definitely. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and you mentioned security there again. I know that within Cisco, Microsoft, and VMware, it's all talking about the security landscape, and that was a big part again at VMworld, and that was part of one of their acquisitions in 2019.
Mhm.
Is Carbon Black,
Mm.
and that is a big part again of they're recognising that the security market is very complex. It's thousands of vendors out there at the moment trying to solve all the problems around security, and that's just complicating the environment and the management of solutions providers, managed service providers, the vendors themselves, and even the end customers, which is just making, I suppose, it's like a colander for people out there wanting to attack and break in. So I think the general message is that these big vendors now are incorporating security into the foundations and the fundamentals to try and really simplify, and again, these single panes of glass, to give that better experience and more protection to the end customer. It's all becoming foundational.
And over in Vegas, I presume collaboration, and we'll come back to security because I think it's a really important point. I think that will probably feature as takeaways from lots of the different events, but the collaboration piece within Cisco.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think to Wayne's point, without maybe getting too specific in terms of the security piece, but the importance for all the vendors to collaborate with each other. Wayne's analogy around the colander is a great one, because I think each of the vendors perhaps recognises that in their own right they can't cover all the security. They can't cover all the security concerns of a customer, and that collaboration absolutely needs to happen to be able to offer a more consolidated portfolio, if you like, in terms of stopping, preventing, whatever the right terminology is, a lot of those security threats. So Cisco, as you know, announced more of a collaboration around the Microsoft Azure stack.
Yep.
That recognition of whether it's full cloud, whether it's cloud on-prem, whatever the mix is, that collaboration with the vendors that are to a certain extent leading the charge is massively important for Cisco, as well as it is for a VMware, in terms of making sure they're collaborating with the right vendors, the right app developers, whatever it may be, to be able to offer that more cohesive approach out to the customers. I think there's still a long way to go still, I think, in terms of really being able to offer the vendors offering that fully cohesive approach. But that ultimately, I think, is the opportunity for partners in the channel, as Wayne said, whether it's service providers, whether it's VARs, whatever it may be, around making, customers have got an awful lot of vendors still to look at to try and figure out what the right solution is for their particular challenge, business outcome, whatever it may be that they want to purchase technology, if you like, to either stop or to further the experience that they're having. The opportunity for partners still remains is still there around making sure that they can be that value adding to their customer base around the portfolios that the various vendors offer, and how that then looks for a customer versus the vendor messages and the vendor technologies into the partner community.
No, I think that's a great point, and I think from the partners which I speak to as well about the various different vendors, that collaboration is seeping into the channel that I'm seeing as well, in terms of I've I've never seen partners working together in the way that they have been in the past few years in terms of supplementary services, complementary services. Everything that we're doing around as a business is obviously around solutions, which is pulling in various different areas from within the group to maximise the sort of customer experience. So I think it's kind of a great point.